And
And
welcome to This Week in Worcester Podcast. I am Tom Marino, editor of This Week in Worcester. This is John Edward Keogh. He is executive producer of Managing Media and president of Hollywood Film Group. Hello, Mr. Keogh.
hello, Mr. Tom. How are you, sir?
I heard there was a thing tomorrow.
There is a thing tomorrow. Tomorrow is the Managing Media Election Eve special. We're gonna have a bunch of guests coming
I don't know
on.
if that was the thing. I don't know if that was the thing I was referring to, but that's also an important thing.
What's the thing that you were referring to?
I heard that there was a thing we got to do tomorrow. We got to go to a place and push some buttons or something. Fill in some circles with a marker.
That's on Tuesday. Tomorrow's Monday.
Oh yeah, it is. I don't even know
You
what
lost
day it
the
is.
whole day, bro.
Why are we hold on, back up. Why are we I'll give that day away. Why are we doing with Manny, whom I love? Why are we doing election eve and not election night? So we can talk about results.
Well, I mean, we could do a results thing, but I mean, one of the reasons is that I'm actually working
That's right.
From
That's
six in the morning until 9 o'clock at night, and so
you don't want to talk after that.
well, it's not that. It's just that I'd probably be producing the thing, and I would be, I feel like I wouldn't be the greatest. And to be honest with you, because of some of the stuff that we've heard about, and I don't know, I hope that people are smart and don't do anything stupid, but I don't want to be out and about if people do things that are not great. So, but yeah, I mean, I think I shared it to all the places. I think I did. Yeah, I shared it to all the places. There we go.
All right. Well, we are here. Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I mean, so yeah, I would love to, to do it, on the actual election day, but
But yeah, you have a little 6 to 9 shift to work.
yeah, and I'll be honest with you, I guess I don't have to do the election thing. I just really enjoy it. I like the volunteer aspect of that particular day, even though we do get paid. It's not that we don't have a paycheck. It's $240 that you get paid for the 15 hours. But I don't want to give up that opportunity to encourage people, and hopefully I can be like a positive thing. I remember 4 years ago when I did the last election with President Biden and former President Trump. It wasn't always positive that day.
No.
So I have a feeling there could be a repeat of that. And I was able to diffuse a couple things 4 years ago, because I have a generally, somewhat a good ability to manage that kind of stuff. And the team that's works at the library, we've all worked together for a long time, so we're pretty good at that kind of stuff. Dealing with whatever issues there are, and also I want to make sure people get a chance to vote. Because I really do believe in that. I do. I understand that a lot of people don't necessarily respect American democracy. A lot of people believe it's all rigged and blah 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 and all that stuff, but I do at least like to hope that exercising the right to vote has some value for each individual person. So they should get that opportunity to go in there, fill out the bubbles, and by themselves and do their thing. And so I'm hoping that I can contribute in some way. So we could do a post, we could do a results show if you wanted to at some point, but maybe it will be Wednesday would be a better time. We could figure that out. Yeah.
All right. Well, we intended to do this last week, and we got carried away in city council shenanigans. So we are here to discuss the ballot questions before voters in our wonderful state on Tuesday.
Yeah, I mean the five ballot questions, and I know in a couple of towns there's like additional ballot questions too, right? But at least here in Worcester we got the five that we need to deal with, and so I think they're very interesting. They're unique. It's a unique group of ballot questions, and I think we should talk about it. And I'm ready to take public positions on all five, even though I know that some of them, what position you take might result in people being upset with you on each side. While we're doing it, we should put it on screen too, if we can. I don't know. I have the PDF ready if you need it.
So I actually pulled up Tufts University Tisch College voter guide, which I thought was kind of interesting, and I didn't like. I didn't think the stuff was thorough in their analysis. I thought there was some stuff they left out, but they did a good job nonetheless. No beating on them. I don't know that we need to display it. I mean, we can. Rather than the PDF though, let's go to
maybe just like the name of the questions. You know what I mean? And then not the text of all the stuff. We can talk about that.
My go-to on this stuff is Ballotpedia, so I'm just going to pull it up there so we can display that. You want to introduce question number 1, sir?
Yeah, sure. So question number 1 is the state auditor's authority to audit the legislature. And it's a yes or no vote. Do you approve of the law summarized below, which no vote was taken by the Senate or House of Representatives before May 1st, 2024? That's the time limit. A ballot question in Massachusetts, just for anybody who's watching, you can't have a ballot question where there was a law vote taken on a proposed law by the Senate or House of Representatives in Massachusetts within a certain time frame. I think it's 6 months or 180 days. And so that's why it says that. And then a yes vote would specify that the state auditor has the authority to audit the legislature, and a no vote would make no change in the law relative to the state auditor's authority.
So this is actually like the background here is probably more complex than the other ones.
Wait, before you get into the background, wait 1 second. Our current state auditor dropped a single over the weekend on Spotify in relation to this question.
No way.
I swear.
I did not know that. I did not know this.
I swear. I sent it to Manny earlier. It blew my mind. I don't know if I can the name of the if you go to Diana DiZagoglio.hearnow.com, she has a single called This Is the Time, and it literally is about people being denied the right to vote on a particular issue. So it's very, very interesting. And our state auditor has a nice voice.
So this is interesting because this is ultimately going to end in court. I mean, this is going to pass overwhelmingly.
I would expect that this will pass like 85-15 or some nonsense.
Yeah, it's going to be dumb. As it should, because no branch of government should have no oversight. Right. But there's so the limits here are going to be interesting, right? Like the question doesn't actually have any limits built in, but yes. Really, just so everyone's clear here, the office of the state auditor is actually an executive branch function. The office is elected, but it actually, organizationally sits in the executive branch. And so what this question does is really ask the executive branch to audit the legislative branch, and that raises all sorts of constitutional questions about separation of powers and yada yada, specifically about separation of powers. And so, like, core legislative functions are almost certainly going to be off limits. Votes, debates, and this is a real problem there too, in the House at least. Committee assignments, that sort of stuff is not going to be, is definitely not going to happen, and it's probably that part is absolutely going to be ruled out in court. It's just, it's just overreach. But on non-core activities, this does happen in other places in the country, but it is usually with the kind of blessing of the legislature, and that's absolutely not going to happen here.
Yeah, so they're going to fight back against this. I think that so let me come right out and say this: I'm a yes vote all the way, personally.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And because the state legislature has done everything possible, and this is to hide, to cheat, to steal. and it didn't just like start the other day. This current Speaker of the House has yet to be indicted, so I can't say that he's a criminal. But the three speakers of the House before him in a row, who ruled the House from the late '80s until this guy, all were indicted federally.
I don't
And
think the last one was. I don't think he was ever indicted. He was
so,
under an
Sal DeMacy?
investigation.
Was it Sal DeMacy?
No, it was I can't believe I forgot it.
Oh, live fact checking on the This Week in Worcester podcast. Let's see.
Robert DeLeo.
Oh, DeLeo, yeah. So okay.
Yeah, so he was investigated.
He
was. I don't believe he was indicted, but yeah, his two predecessors were for sure.
So, but wait. Speakers, hold on. Let's check.
And while you look for that, more importantly is, the speaker the Speaker of the House in Massachusetts is, it's the God mode role. You basically control everything. From you have unilateral power as the speaker over committee assignments, and that's how legislators actually make some money in the House. Their salary is pinned to 10% below state median, and then you get bonuses for being assigned to committees, and you only get assigned to committees if you play ball with the speaker. So that's one way in how he controls the whole shebang.
All right, so let me live fact check myself. So the current Speaker of the House, Ron Mariano, has yet to be indicted for anything. Robert DeLeo, who is his predecessor, who was the Speaker for 11 years, was investigated in several places. He resigned to accept a position at Northeastern University. So took that nice golden parachute out to a university presidentship. That's always fun. The guy before him, Sal DeMacy, resigned, convicted of conspiracy, honest services frauds, and extortion. Ron Mariano was his immediate right-hand man. So, but apparently he didn't know anything that was going on there. His predecessor was Thomas Finneran, who pled guilty to obstruction of justice, and he was Sal DeMacy was his right-hand man, and then his immediate predecessor, Charles Flaherty, pleaded guilty to tax evasion, and he and Tom Finneran was his. So there was three in a row that were convicted of crimes. The fourth was investigated for crimes. The current is not. So, and then of course, in covering all of them, and then the ones before that, the Senate president was William Bulger, who I don't know if you know, but he had a very famous brother.
Yeah, and just to go down this track a little
ridiculous.
bit. It is absurd.
It's so bad.
And the current chair of the House Ways and Means, Aaron Michlowitz, I call him the representative from Jewel, because although he took many victory laps over the vape ban, he pushed through an amendment to that bill that actually raised the nicotine limit so that Juul, it was to the limit that Juul manufactures its products at, because their products have insane levels of nicotine, and essentially put Juul back on the shelf in every convenience store across Massachusetts. And if you watch this with any regularity, I am a vapor, and I do not go near that Juul stuff because that is a level of nicotine that no human should ingest. And I bring up Michlowitz to say that he was, he worked for DeMacy, and when DeMacy was indicted, and I believe went to jail, right? He's out, but he went to jail. I think he passed away after getting out. But Michlowitz ran in his spot, ran in his seat, and is now essentially the heir to the Speaker of the House, which is what you do as chair of Ways and Means. So,
do you see what's happening in the chat right now?
No.
Radioactive Worcester has graced us with their presence today, and so we are receiving wonderful endorsements in the chat. It's not. Oh yeah,
Who is this person?
that's Colleen Colby. You don't know, man. You're a Twitter guy, bro. How do you not know Colleen Colby?
Oh, I despise Twitter is a cesspool.
Not that one. Go, Colleen. You're the best. All right.
No, yeah, I don't know Colleen. Colleen could be a wonderful person. Martha Coakley for president. Absolutely shoot me in the face. So yeah, so that's the kind of stuff that is going on at the House over the last 10, 15 years or so. And it's a bad place, and it doesn't run well. And thank you to the Speaker of the House for completely screwing this city on its chief of police. Thank you very much. Yeah, we really appreciate that. We really want there to be some idiotic competition through a bubble test, so you can because three guys want to throw out the guy that we all want.
So like when they like, I don't know. I mean, I don't want to go down that road because that was just gonna get me mad. But the point is that the auditor wants to, kind of get some, light into what happens inside the House of Representatives here in Massachusetts. Which, by the way, all Democrats, and Tom, if you've watched the show at all, you'll know that I am very critical of Massachusetts Democrats who have been in ruling power. Majority in the House and the Senate in Massachusetts since 1959, and all of the all the law that we currently complain about here in the state, all the rules, all the taxes, all the everything has been if not written by, passed by Democratic majorities, and several of them were convicted, indicted, ridiculously corrupt felons. But it is what it is, right? Which we complain about when it's on the other side, right? Pretty regularly, we get a lot of rhetoric in relation to that, which, by the way, justified. If you're committing crimes, you probably shouldn't be in charge. That's generally the way to go. But in this case, this person hasn't been indicted yet, right? Ron Mariano, although I'm sure there's a chance that might happen. He might not like that I just said that. I happen to know him and his family. But the fact is that they do things in corrupt ways. I agree with you, Tom, that you said that they won't be able to investigate committee assignments, but they should be able to investigate committee assignments because there's reason to believe that there's some kind of monetary thing that happens there, that there's a quid pro quo. I give you a committee chairmanship. You do what I say. You get a bonus in your paycheck. I don't.
Well, so that's not the only thing you can. Yeah, that's not the only thing you control. So just as to make a living working in the House, I mean, look, especially if you live in Western Mass or in Central Mass, and you go into Boston several times a week for most of the year, it's expensive, right?
Wait a second. Are you saying that the commuter rail, the wonderful Massachusetts Bay Transportation Authority, that they don't deliver our state reps and senators from Western Mass, at a regularly, wonderful interval directly to the city of Boston? Wasn't that the plan?
I don't want to go down that road. That's its own show. But regardless of how they get there, it's expensive to work in Boston when you're making 10% less than state median. I forget what it is now. I mean, it's a decent paycheck. Don't get me wrong, but those folks, they do work hard. They do, with the work they have to do and the fundraising they have to do, which is part of the gig. They do work hard. And if you're traveling from far, if you live in Boston, that's one thing. If you don't, it's another, right? And so how you get over state median is through committee assignments. And one person controls those and can remove you from them whenever they shall please. So this is why we have what was it, 4 years ago now, when we had there was a vote on some aspect of the rules a few years ago, and the the board, that shows who's voting how in the House, it put up Mariano's vote incorrectly, and when they switched his vote, at the same time they switched, I think, 50 other representatives' votes, because that's how much control he has
Yeah,
over that.
people wait till what he votes and then they vote how he votes. They don't actually think for themselves. And I appreciate that you're doing the hard journalistic work of saying that these folks work hard, but I can't tell, Tom. I can't tell. I really can't. Again, there is so much to criticize about Massachusetts based on the revenue that comes in, based on the amount of taxes that are taxed, based on the amount of fees that. Let me tell you one little fee that I didn't even know about, and it personally affected me just recently. So I had a lease on my car that was running out, and I had to make a decision whether or not to get a new loan and buy the car out or to return the car. And right before the lease ended, I needed to get my inspection, the inspection, right? So I got the inspection, paid my $35, right? And then, you get a year until the next inspection, right? That was in May. So then I ended up buying the car in July. So in less than 60 days, I bought the car. I got a loan to buy the car. And did you know that when you buy a car that you have to get a new inspection when you buy it? Did you know that?
Yes.
So
Actually, no. It should only be if the title transfers, though.
So,
it did though, because you bought
in
it.
the situation of a lease, it's a title transfer, but it was the
Yep.
same car that was inspected 54 days before the loan went through. So that's $70, right? So the level of theft of our people. Now that was just me. Now it's $35. Pay the $35. Get the inspection sticker. You feel like it's no big deal, right? But think about how many people have gone through that. Think about how many people have had that additional
Well, just
fee
the
applied.
time,
Where does the
that they
money go?
steal from you to do
Yeah, yeah,
that.
okay. Because now I got to go get an appointment, or I have to go during time, or I have to squish whatever, and then you have that makes your day a little bit harder. It makes it a little bit less easy for you to make more whatever it is that you're doing at, or get to the place that you want to go to. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But my question is, where does all the money go to? Considering our state has so much and has so many fees and things related to it. Where does it all go? Where does it all go? Now, I'm not going down the rabbit hole that everybody wants to go on Facebook and Twitter, where they're gonna blame it on that they're giving it to this group of people or that group of people, because whatever the new group of people that you internet psychos are against today, it's been going on my whole life, predates me, right? So I'm 42. This kind of waste of Massachusetts taxpayer dollars has been going on for decades. So it didn't just start with whatever the current other that you don't like is whatever that group is, right? So it's not just that. They steal our money and they use it for pet projects, which was never the intention of the tax levy. The tax levy was never supposed to pay for somebody's gazebo, right? Which is something that is like a common, wonderful thing. It's like, well, we got to make the gazebo in town square X. That was not what tax dollars was supposed to go to. Tax dollars are supposed to be for infrastructure improvements and things that are related to helping people, not related to helping the government's friends and their buddies. Oh man, Sean. Don't put that on the screen. Oh no.
Had to.
No. Oh my goodness. We just went. This whole show just turned dark, right, with one comment. Oh no. But yeah, I mean, it's like I want them. I want everything that they do. I want their emails. I want their phone calls. I understand that in legislation, there's going to be personal conversations between people that are like negotiated. But if you're using an official state email to email someone an official state thing, I want that recorded. I want a printout. I want it available. And I want Tom Marino, as a journalist, to be able to have instantaneous access to that. And I want the public to be able to see what's going on. If you're discussing stuff that is like illegal, then, it should be revealed. It should be revealed real quick. We should be able to like narrow those things down. And then so for the state, I have had actually a state representative tell me, well, John, you don't understand, that makes it harder for us to do things.
Good.
Accountability is more important than your comfortability. If you decide to take a public position, you should be held to a higher standard. It's the same argument I make with police officers. We've had a bunch of conversations on the show. I have a lot of good relationships with local police officers, and they always say, "How come you want us to be investigated? How come Tom says this and da 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 blah 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 blah." It's not that I want every police officer to be arrested. I just want them to be the thing that they say that they are. If you're the group of people that are supposed to protect and serve, or serve and protect, whichever version of that's on the side of your car, then you should be held to a higher standard than me. Right? That's just all it is. If you decide to take that position, you go through the training and all the other stuff. We're giving you a gun to carry in public. Yeah, I want to investigate you and make sure that you're not doing crazy, stupid stuff. I'm not saying every single one does crazy, stupid stuff, because that's not true. It's usually a smaller group of people. But I'm not going to go down the route of the bad apples argument. The issue is that because you don't have accountability, it creates a culture of pervasive nepotism, graft, and corruption. So when you put light on stuff and you see what's going on, it makes it more likely that you're going to be accountable. And it often brings to light things like, these three speakers of the House that got indicted. But by the way, all of whom were ratted by other representatives that didn't like them after a while. And
well, I mean, and that goes back to what the Speaker of the controls. So, it's not just committee assignments; it's also which office you get if you're elected, which legislative aides you have. Because it's kind of one pool of people, and then the people are signed out. So if they obviously know which ones are better than others, right, or more experienced than others. So there's a whole host of things that they use to, that the speaker can use to leverage against members. And then you have someone like my personal favorite in the House, Erica Erdehoven, who tries to push back on that and is basically I imagine her office is on the roof without a ceiling. Next to some metal rods for when it rains. You know what I mean?
And there's some bad offices in that building. There's some rough offices in that building, man. There's little closets,
a lot of the things that we'd hope to see audited won't be. If anything happens at all, this will probably end up in court, and that's fine, because hopefully the legislature will again expose itself for being frauds. And not that everybody is, like, there's some amazing, I personally love my state senator, but it's hopefully it will kind of shine a light on just how lawless it really is up there.
Yeah, I do want my state reps and state senators on the record, though. That's what I want. I mean, the whole point of this vote, realistically, is that it's going to end up in court, and there's going to be a constitutional battle. There might have to be a vote by the state senate and the state. There's going to be all kinds of stuff that might happen here, and I want them to, at some form, I want them publicly on the record about accountability, not about the auditor's ability to do this, which I've already seen some of our local representatives taking the road that says, well, I believe in accountability, but the executive branch shouldn't be investigated. No. That's obscuring the issue. The issue is the state legislature needs to be held accountable for the things that it's done, and it's not enough to bring back millions of dollars to the city of Worcester. It's not enough to bring back money to the whatever township you're related to or city or whatever. It's more important that we know what you're doing there and why things are happening the way they're happening, and why Massachusetts, the supposed liberal progressive capital of America, continues to have the same problems that exist all around the country that we complain about all the time, right? And why some of the money seems to be really, really, really weirdly handled. I want to see it. I want to know what's going on.
Well, yeah, and the kind of last thing on this is Speaker of the House really controls what hits the floor and gets voted on. So, and that's the pressure that all the other reps are under is if you don't play ball and you need a bill for your district, it ain't getting there. It ain't going to happen. Yeah. And so you get this really culture of patronage and, what I would call a different kind of corruption. So I think we're in universal agreement on question one is a big yes.
Yes, on one all day.
At the very least, it will end. It will go to an ugly court battle, and that'll at least be entertaining.
Hey, by the way, this ugly court battle that could completely be avoided. Will spend all of our lovely tax dollars. Thanks, we appreciate that. Thank you very much.
I mean, sometimes you got to go to court. Question two, which I think is probably the question I think most people are most familiar with, is the eliminating the MCAS test as a graduation requirement. I think some people may be confused on this. The test will still happen,
yes,
as a means to evaluating where schools are in their process of serving their students. However, the 10th grade MCAS exam will not be a graduation requirement if this passes. Some people at the state level, including our dear, wonderful governor, has come out in opposition to this. I guess if I had to pick an argument that I've heard against this, it's that, well, one, then there'll be no state standards, and bad school systems that perform on the lower scale, end of the scale, will be incentivized to lower requirements to get more kids graduated. I guess that's true, but we're still taking the test. We'll know how those kids are doing on the test, and that's a means to evaluating, for the state to evaluate, individual school districts, etc. So, I'm generally for this. Kids learn in different ways, and not all of it is fill out a bubble test. A bubble test doesn't do, it is regurgitating information that you'll later forget.
Yeah, right now, there's only 8 states in the country that have this as have a test requirement. Florida, Louisiana, Massachusetts, Ohio, New Jersey, New York, Texas, and Virginia. Those are the 8 states. No, Sean, it's administered in various stages, but the graduation requirement test is the 10th grade test. So if you don't pass that one, you don't graduate. Now, the argument has been made that this doesn't affect that many students, which is true. There are ways that if you don't pass the MCAS that you can then still graduate. There are options for that. However, it does create this high stakes pressure on high school students that we know this is a universal truth. Students as teenagers are not as good at tests as they are as adults. We know that. So it doesn't necessarily produce a better educational outcome. The thing that we know for sure does produce better educational outcome. This is a universal truth across all societies in the history of mankind, is student to teacher ratio and resources per student. Those two measures result in history consistently in every culture, in every single country, in every nation, in every version of human society ever. It always results in better student outcomes. This test only measures a snapshot of a preparation cycle that happens in a very short period of time. It cannot ever measure a student's full knowledge base. It can't. It might have some value as a measure of how teachers are doing, but it's hard to prove that because not every school in Massachusetts has the same student to teacher ratio or the same per student resources. So if you don't have exactly the same conditions, this is the basic understanding of empirical science, evidence that leads to a consistent result, right? So that's all we're trying to do is get consistent results from the same evidence. If you don't have the same evidence, you cannot get where, Tom? The same results. So that means that this test is subjective. It is not an objective measure. And right off the bat, you can't have subjective tests in an education environment. And we all know that. You don't have to be a teacher or a principal or a superintendent to understand that putting kids under a subjective lens is going to create an objective measure. Oh, it's not that hard. It's really not that complicated. But somehow we have folks that are attached to this test, but they have no evidence at all to back them up. They didn't have any evidence in the 90s when they instituted it, and they definitely don't have any evidence now that this leads to better student outcomes, except in schools with what? The best student to teacher ratios and the most resources per student. So that all it did was prove to us what we already knew. By the way, Massachusetts rankings in the education standards blah 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 over time, they haven't changed. In the entire history of the MCAS, we're pretty much in the same percentile range that we always were, which is we are one of the higher performing states in the country. Except where, Tom? Where there's bad student teacher ratios and low resources per student. And wouldn't you know, it always seems to end up in schools where there happens to be a majority of kids of color or lower economic status. That is a absolute 100% fact. And it's really hard to deal with people who say that it isn't. Now, the question is what happens after this, right? So if they take away the graduation requirement, what happens next? Well, as Tom pointed out, I have friends that have come to me, but they're going to eliminate the test completely. No, they're not. They're only taking away this single test as a measure of graduation. And if you just think about it last, and I'm done, and I'm going to let Tom go at it. If a kid gets straight A's from kindergarten to senior in high school, straight A's across the board in every single measure, but they fail this test, do you really believe that they shouldn't graduate high school? Think about it. If you're pro this question, that's what it comes down to. You're saying that a kid that does everything right across the board, that they shouldn't graduate because they failed this test. If you believe that, you definitely shouldn't be in charge of a school. That's all I have to say.
Yeah, no, I don't really have anything to add. Liz, an easy yes for me. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, he says. What Sean
Bye-bye.
said about audio stuff there?
It was a weird analogy. I will agree with Shawnee. I did not. I didn't. Oh, I get it. That is a weird analogy, though. I will credit him that.
No, but he's not wrong, because
he's not wrong.
I will say this about Sean. There's probably two companies left in the world, in Shure and Sennheiser, who design their microphones to sound good. And then everybody else kind of falls into that range, right? So he's making a really good point, right? That Shure and Sennheiser put out products on a regular basis that are designed to sound good. And then every other audio company, including locally owned Bose Radio, right, has really started to move towards this reviewers, right? So we want to make sure that the people who review it in magazines, and it's not even paper magazines anymore, it's online reviewers of certain products, that they are the ones that qualify how a microphone is supposed to sound, or a soundboard. Excuse me. And not every audio company does that, but Sean's right. It's a good analogy. Ooh.
Yeah, that's I think an easy yes for both of us on question 2.
Yes on 2.
Question 3. A union for rideshare drivers. Now this has some nuance. I think people should be able to unionize should they so choose. However, this question was built on enabling what's called sector-based bargaining. So drivers across many companies, we're basically talking about Uber and Lyft here, and this is about rideshare, not delivery services. So the services that deliver meals or whatever, that would not apply here to this. Is only for specifically rideshare stuff, rideshare services. And so like Uber and Lyft contractors, quote unquote, would be able to have one union together and collectively bargain with for their members with both companies. So it wouldn't be a union inside a single company, which is not really been done here in the United States, and will also likely face legal challenges. Um, but again, this is an easy yes for me. Let those people, the idea that individuals should negotiate with massive companies and somehow that's going to work out is silly, and people should be able to come together and negotiate for the good of the group.
Yeah, I have no problem with unionization in general. I mean, I work in the film industry, and so a lot of the film work is kind of similar to this question because films are like project based, and so someone who is like negotiating might have a different person that they're negotiating with, like cycle to cycle. So what ends up happening is the unions have done this kind of sector based thing. I'm not sure why it's not legal now. It doesn't really make a lot of sense to me. Um, I don't understand why they can't bargain as it is, except for the fact that it seems to be that if you're one of these drivers, you're not really an employee, you're like a contractor. And so they're kind of leaning on that aspect. I did DoorDash for a little while to make some extra money at one point. And I can tell you that DoorDash treats its drivers like garbage. I can tell you that for sure. And so I'm sure that that's the same feeling. I looked at all the message boards on the Uber and the Lyft drivers to kind of prepare for this question. And it doesn't seem like there's a lot of folks that are happy with the Uber Eats and Uber and Lyft and DoorDash and Instacart and all these big companies that have like gained a lot of money really, really fast, billion-dollar market shares, and all these folks are being paid minimum wage or nothing. So um, I'm a yes, just because you would always want people to have the opportunity to negotiate better, and these companies have proven that they don't want to act right. And so even though sometimes I think unions don't do the best stuff. Um, there's one particular union I'm thinking about here in Massachusetts that doesn't do great things. It's called, but anyways, we won't get into that.
No,
But
it's not.
let's not go down that road. But in this particular case, we're talking about people who are making nothing, right? And being paid nothing. They're treated poorly. I don't know if anybody's ever been to Wingstop in Worcester. Wingstop on Southbridge Street, right? So Wingstop, it is the got to be the busiest little restaurant I've ever seen in my life. And like I said, I did DoorDash for a little bit. And you would go there, you'd wait for 30, 45 minutes for an order, and then you go deliver it. And, the delivery is like, 10, 15 minutes or whatever. But so you work a full hour and you don't make minimum wage between the tip and the rate that they're paying you in the app. So now what people end up doing is they end up cheating, right? And so they have 4 DoorDash accounts and 4 Instacart accounts and 4 Uber Eats accounts, and so they're all picking up 12 orders, and that's how they're hustling. Good for them hustling that way. But if you have to wait in a store for 40 minutes and then drive 20 minutes to deliver an order, you should be making minimum wage. And so these companies are getting away with the minimum wage laws by not having these kind of negotiating units in place. And so based on that alone, there should be the opportunity for people to negotiate. And so I am a yes on this.
Yeah. The idea that people should be restricted, again, idea that people should be restricted from coming together and negotiating as a group is absurd to me.
Well, a last thought though, if someone doesn't want to join the union, I am also am a person that doesn't believe you should be forced to join a union. So if you want to not join the union, you want to negotiate on your own, that's on you. Go ahead and do it. Do you think?
Yeah, I mean that's like, because this goes down the rabbit hole of right to work stuff, and um, I mean that's often just a tactic to undermine unions. However, and so that's seems like a reasonable position, but there's some nuance to that as well, which is a different conversation.
I will say this: in the document that is sent to voters and in the little booklet, the Mass Fiscal Alliance, which is the no on 3, says that drivers already receive a base of $32.50 an hour with yearly increases, and that is a complete and utter lie. And I can actually pull up the DoorDash app right now, and it will tell you the base rate. And the base rate is usually $15 an hour. So it is not $32.50, but it's $15 an hour prorated by how many minutes you drive to the restaurant and then to the delivery. So it's not $15 for an hour that you're on, it's $15 prorated. So say you turn on the app at 6 o'clock in the afternoon, and then in between 6 and 7, you do one delivery, you might only get paid $6 because that's what the delivery pays because you were only actually on driving for X minute to X minute. Meanwhile, you're driving around the restaurants that are involved with the app. And so that met what Mass Fiscal Alliance, and I know the Worcester chapter president. You can call me if you want to call me on it, but I have the app on my phone just for this, just so I knew that when I was on Tom's show to be able to live fact check you that $32.50 rate is a lie. So anybody who's reading this book, that is not true. It's just factually untrue. That's on page in the Mass PDF. That's on page 34, provided by the Secretary of State.
So I don't know. I think the first 3 questions are likely to pass. I think MCAS will pass, even though there's some people getting a little loud here in the home stretch about being opposed to that passing. But question 4 seems to be the most controversial one, and it kind of makes me angry that it is. And this is being framed everywhere as legalizing psychedelic drugs, and that's just not what it is. It is legalizing the medical use, which would need to be, of course, overseen by a doctor, of certain psychedelics, psilocybin, mescaline, DMT, and some other stuff. That I only can't say the words. That's why I didn't say them. Because I don't know what the words are.
Methyltryptamine and ibogaine is what I got. Is the other 2 words.
Sure, that.
There you
go. And so this is, going to be offered by licensed professionals in a clinical setting. And the advantages of these drugs, you have likely seen a lot of veterans groups being very supportive of this because microdosing has been shown to have incredible positive effects on mental health issues like post-traumatic stress disorder. And typically, it's not, you can take any drug to get high, just about anyone.
Yeah.
And including these. But if you're, taking controlled doses at, what's recommended by a licensed, clinician, you wouldn't be doing that. So it really upsets me that I don't know how this one's going to go because war on drugs people still exist. But you just if you vote no on this, you're basically saying I hate veterans.
So I don't think again, I think that this one does create, an agency and all the stuff that you would want. You want the people to be able to view it. I would say that my only pause in reading this particular thing was this. It creates a natural psychedelic substances commission of 5 members appointed by the governor, attorney general, and treasurer. Right?
Well, that's how
I understand. But the Cannabis Commission has done themselves no glory in the history of the Cannabis Commission, right? With the again, Massachusetts, the just epic corruption that exists in our state, where the Cannabis Commission has handed out licenses to their friends, their family members, and oh my goodness, isn't it weird? 95% white people and only 5% minorities. It's ridiculous. And so that kind of stuff is the thing that worries me in general. So I just would hope that if this does pass, that the people that you're talking about here, that you hold the governor, the attorney general, and the treasurer accountable. Hold them accountable for these commissions because you don't. And I'm not complaining about the attorney general and the governor and the treasurer. I'm talking about voters in Massachusetts. You don't hold these people accountable. All you do is complain online and you don't do anything about it. You just whine, and you don't do nothing. None of you run for these positions, and you don't actually want to fix it, right? I do want to fix it, and I understand that there's a lot of people in the way, but there's enough of us talking and saying things and at least being out there and showing up for stuff, including some of the stuff that we've seen in this ridiculous city that we live in sometimes, where we go and we're there and we're present. And there are people that are vibrant and willing to do the work, but when these things happen, pay attention. So I think that anything that allows medicine to be taken away from the control of these massive, prescription drug companies and give opportunities for people to do their own self-care, I'm always down for that. And organic care is probably good. Of course, you heard the word mescaline, and if I've been listening to the radio the last couple of days, and the people that are the no vote, they've been hammering mescaline. So all you hear is mescaline, which is funny because I haven't heard the word mescaline since the late '80s, early '90s. Do you remember that MS-DOS game that was like you were the drug dealer? Do you remember that game? And you would like go like to like town. I forget the name of the game. I guarantee someone in the chat knows the game that I'm talking about. But you would become like a drug kingpin, but it was all text-based gaming.
Mhm.
and so that I remember that if you sold mescaline, you made a lot of money, right? And so that was the last time I heard of the word mescaline until the recent radio ads that I've been listening to. And why is there an ad for the drug question on sports radio? Like, it was in the middle of a basketball game the other day. So I don't really listen to sports as much as I used to, but I happened to check into the Celtics game for like, I don't know, maybe 5 or 10 minutes to hear the ridiculous. It might be Drug War, Sean. I don't remember the name. I just remember playing this text-based game. This is before Windows. I remember like this is an MS-DOS game. You know what I mean? It was text-based, and I just remember you would play it, and then your empire would get good. There was dirty cops involved. That kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So
And like some of the opposition to this has been, well, reactions to these drugs are sometimes unpredictable, and all people won't react to them the same way. You mean like all drugs?
yeah. Well, I mean, the thing is that so I guess my thinking in general when it comes to drugs, whatever it is that I think that the only way that one of the elements of eliminating what we call illicit drug use or drug, abuse stuff is to regulate it and to make people accountable, right? And so why you have all these things hidden in the dark over here, because we know that people are selling this stuff on the side all the time. And it's not and so what now you're saying that it's gonna hurt people more if it's more regulated? That doesn't make any sense to me. So that's the argument is people are gonna always argue from the extreme, but we know that there's medicinal. We've seen the studies that these veterans are being able to like get fixed. What's that big lawsuit with there's some like military base where all these folks got poisoned by something. There's always someone trying to sell me, were you a veteran during this time? But my father was a Vietnam veteran, and so he got exposed to DDT, and so he's had a bunch of problems, and he was prescribed some of this stuff on this list under the Military Health Care Act, which is a little bit different than Civilian Health Care Act, and it has significant benefits for him. So for me, wouldn't you want that to be expanded to more people, right? Not I want it for veterans too, but I also want it to be expanded in a wider base, and want it to be regulated and tested, and not just by the big drug companies who always get to do everything and control everything.
Yeah, and I think I forget what it was now. I'd have to look back. I remember doing a story on, there's a trial of one of these products. I don't remember which one. That UMass has been doing for I would guess a year or two now. I'd have to look back. I know I did something on it. I just don't remember what it was. So this testing's been going on a long time. Very positive results have happened in some trials. It's another tool in the toolbox for people to get help with with mental health issues mostly.
Ketamine. There's another one. There's another one that you don't like. This is the kind of thing. It's like I haven't heard of those words in such a long time. It used to be something you heard more often, right?
Yeah, it's because we got old.
That's
They're
true. We
still
are.
out there. Question 5 is the one that I really still haven't kind of decided, and I hate to be that guy 2 days before the election, but I've seen so much on both sides of this, from people even in the business, right? People that are our servers, some are for it, some are against it. It's um,
Come on,
I'm
Sean.
laughing
Yeah,
at
I mean,
Shawnee.
at the same.
That comment is not fit for broadcast,
We're not
but
putting
made
that
me
one on
laugh.
the screen. No.
No, we're not clicking on that one. But made me laugh, and I appreciate it.
It did, yeah.
So this question would for tipped workers, it would phase out the minimum wage of $6.75, which is where it's at now. It would put it make it equivalent with everyone else at 15, and then but it would also enable restaurants to pool tips, which is currently illegal. So you would get paid, minimum wage, but tips would be pooled and could be pooled with even, staff in the back, people that aren't even dealing with customers, which I mean sometimes makes sense. I'm kind of leaning no. I just don't. I guess it would be great for servers who work at a place that isn't as busy, or is in for whatever reason doesn't generate as much business and/or tips. But it seems like it could really hurt people that are doing well, and that's not an easy job, right? It's not like they're coasting serving tables. So I'm kind of leaning no, but as you can tell, I'm not sure if that's the right decision.
So I think I would be an absolute yes if it was just the minimum wage part and not the pool tips part. And so that it made me like investigate the group that like kind of brought this proposal there. And they're not a Massachusetts group, they're a California based group, and so they've done this in other states, the same kind of tax proposal. And I don't but there's not enough evidence, it's not long enough to really see how it's affected small businesses, because I always wonder in relation to minimum wage laws how it affects the little guy, right? Walmart can afford it, and McDonald's can afford it. All of them, they should have always been paying higher wages anyways. The fact that they didn't is ridiculous. I was just talking about Ray Kroc yesterday. If anybody knows who Ray Kroc is, he's the guy who took the McDonald's brothers idea and franchised it and made it into uh into the biggest thing ever. When Ray Kroc died, he was making $1 million like a minute, and then when Ray Kroc's widow died, and because she had received the most, she was making like $1 million a second, right? So McDonald's was producing so much money, and the reason I thought about McDonald's because they were recently in the news with this big stock crash. By the way, it doesn't affect McDonald's at all. Their stock can drop down to 2 cents. It doesn't affect them because they just print cash on a regular basis, which that's why I would say you should have to pay the minimum wage, right? In this case, we're talking about wait staff who actually go and bring stuff out to a person. And I that particular part of tipping culture, and so Sean just mentioned like tipping culture in general. How do you resolve that, or not? So the issue is that I always have found that particular thing that I should be able to give somebody that anyways. Like, so if I wanted to hand a wait staff $20, like I should be able to do what I want with my money, right? But the problem is that how are they taxed? How is that dealt with in a pooled tip situation now? And it's going to be divided. Does that go onto their paycheck and then they have to deal with it? Most of the time, when I give a tip, I want to be able to give a tip to a person and they get the whole thing. They don't have to pay any taxes on it. In my opinion, that's how it should be. But again, that's a bigger question. I noticed that both of the major parties have started to tip in that direction as well. Yeah, you like how I did that? um, so
So pleased
um,
with yourself.
I cracked myself up with that joke. But so the pooled tips thing is just the thing that really is a difficult thing to deal with. So I can just tell you how my reaction to be. I'll never give a credit card tip then ever again after that. So if this gets passed, I'll never give a credit based tip. I'll always hand someone cash, and I'll even ask them to step outside and give them the money outside. So then the owner or whoever the restaurant manager can't say that that's part of their pool, because I don't think that that should be the way it is. Dealing with tips in general now, there has been this big shift since COVID with the spinning of the screens and whether or not you give a tip to somebody who just handed you a bagel. Like so, like I don't know, or it's like those little screens, and someone said that to me. I maybe you and I were talking about it, Tom. I forget, but this idea that if you just spin the screen is because that's how all the systems are now. They come like that, so the terminals just have it built in, so people just automatically spin the screen. But I get hit with one of those at a convenience store the other day, and I'm like, I just bought Starburst, dude. I'm not giving you a tip. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, no, you don't get a tip for me buying Starburst
You should be
for
taxed extra for buying Starburst, though.
what Starburst are dope, dude. Pink and red Starburst all day long, baby. Let's go, bro.
It's also important to understand that servers are making $15 an hour now. They must be paid $6.75 as a minimum wage, and then they make tips. If their tips do not add up to $15 an hour, then the employer has to make that up. Whereas here, the employer would be required to pay them $15 an hour, and then tips would be pooled. And the concerns are, how does that change tipping culture? Will people tip less? It will obviously be more cost for, in most situations, I think, for restaurants. So does that affect prices, and how will that affect tipping? I'm a soft no. I'm a hard yes on the others, but I'm a soft no on this one.
So I would say the other thing about how does it affect? People have asked. I've said this a couple times in public about the how it affects small businesses. So in Massachusetts, you're required to keep a specific amount of money in the bank to cover payroll, right? So if you have booked payroll over the course of a week, whatever it is, however you're reporting back to the state. So if you're a weekly payroll reporter or a monthly payroll reporter, you're required to keep X amount of weeks in the bank in a separate payroll account, right? So that is sometimes difficult for smaller businesses to maintain. And you've probably heard that, in various ways, like, oh man, I got to get over to make payroll, right? I gotta put this money in the bank to make payroll, blah, 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 blah. And that's because you usually have to shift cash in those smaller businesses over from one place to another to cover the payroll thing. And then what you're having to cover there isn't just the wages for the individual, it's also the withholding taxes for the individual. Because if you don't know this, you should know this now, is that although you pay withholding taxes, like I pay FICA and whatever, so does your employer. Your employer has to pay actually part of your taxes in relation to that. So for a bigger company, it doesn't really affect them. It doesn't, because they have so much money they can deal with it. But for smaller companies, having to hold that amount of money in the bank can sometimes make operations more difficult. So, there's never been any massaging to those laws and the basic requirements. And part of that is because often those businesses go under, right? So if you go back to COVID, a lot of businesses did close, and we lamented that. But most of the businesses that I don't want to say all the businesses closed, but a lot of businesses that closed during that time really weren't running well anyways. At the time I was working for Westerman, and part of Westerman's operations was restaurant supply delivery. So, we would deliver stoves and fridges and all kinds of stuff to these businesses, but they were only skating by right before the pandemic, and they were just barely making it. And then so the pandemic hit, they couldn't, sell pizza, and boom, you saw all these restaurants go out of business really, really fast. But they probably weren't really operating as a business well in the first place. So I don't know how that like correlation is. Will this change and make it even harder for a smaller business owner to operate? Maybe. I don't know. I feel like it's worded poorly, and I don't like the second part about the pooled tips. So I just don't know. I also, like you, I kind of just don't know. I feel like I'm gonna go with my gut on Tuesday and figure it out. I don't know. So
Yeah.
I'm still not sure about this one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that is our review of the 5 ballot questions.
That's right. Not bad.
Uh,
Not bad. We delivered.
four,
It's only 5 minutes past the hour mark. Woo.
I know, it's crazy. I believe that we are both 4 hard yeses and a soft. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm a
And
soft. No, you're a soft. I don't know.
ah,
Yeah. So regardless of if you wholly disagree with either one of our position, which is they're similar, that's fine. Go vote anyway, and go vote anyway.
yeah. And don't leave the questions blank, man. Don't do that because the thing about the ballot question thing in Massachusetts in particular is they do somewhat pay attention to the amount of people that participate in this state, right? So you can kind of see sometimes that things get shifted when there's like a ballot question, right? And so if you go back to Massachusetts' kind of slow rollout of accepting legalization of cannabis, but then when that ballot question came up about it, right, the overwhelming support of it, if you saw how fast all those politicians who were once against it are now for it, it was amazing how fast the change came. And that's because they realized the political capital had changed and it didn't really matter anymore because 80-90% of the people in the state just don't care. Whether you're against cannabis or not, most people have just accepted it at this point. It's like, whatever, it is what it is. Maybe you have a cultural or a particular moral imperative related to that particular substance. That's fine. But you've generally accepted that it's going to be legal and that's how it is, and politicians make their decisions on that calculation. So participation is key. You got to be involved if you want to get at least some of these super corrupt politicians to pay attention. It is what it is. Yeah. So you know what time it is, Tom? It's the best time of the show.
Yeah, let's do a couple announcements first. Of course,
Oh, yeah.
I and many others will be appearing on Manny J Media tomorrow, or appearing with Manny J Media for an election eve special. We'll have tons of awesome guests,
Yeah.
myself included. I'm on the less awesome of that spectrum because there's some really awesome guests.
Cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
Flyer will be up in a little while. A little while there'll be a flyer.
And we will do this again next week at 8:30 on Sunday. That's how we roll.
Well, hopefully, unless of course our country has been turned into a dystopian nightmare by next Sunday, and we're not allowed to like leave our houses. I mean, I don't know what's going to happen between now and then, Tom. We have this big thing coming up on Tuesday, so who knows?
It could be the end of the world. And regardless of who you vote for or how you vote on these questions, when they count the ballots, just accept that because that's what they do is just count the ballots.
I'll tell you what. So, and hey, get out there. I'm an election inspector at the library. Please go out and vote and participate in these vote, and please be nice to the ballot workers. It is not an easy job to work at the polls. Sometimes it's easy when no one shows up, but on this particular day, the presidential election usually brings out folks that are not happy with each other and with you, and so do your best to be nice to the folks. Most of the people are older. They're not. There's not a lot of young folks that do this volunteer work. And by the way, if you're thinking about it, maybe next time you could join. It's a pretty tight knit group of people. It's a very diverse group of people that volunteer. So just go out and be nice to them as much as you can. If you see me, you can tell me to go f myself. That's fine. But if you wanna at least be nice to the rest of the people around me, that would be nice. They're very sweet, and I care about them a lot. And so I think there is a part about our country where people do care and want to try to participate. And so, if you do go out there, do your best to just be nice. It's going to be a rough day for everybody on Tuesday. So let's just be nice. Try to be nice.
Yeah. And vote shaming is the stupidest thing alive.
It is. It is.
I would just say, if you're going to vote for a certain person for a certain important office from the state of Florida, that that's your prerogative. I disagree. Holy good God, do I disagree? But still love you. Just if it doesn't go the way that you'd like, just don't feed into the nonsense that's inevitably coming that it was stolen. It wasn't.
Mm. This though, today not to go too deep into religious stuff here because I know there's some folks here that don't necessarily like that. But PSL candidate De La Cruz, I actually went and looked at all the other candidates just to get an idea of them. So that's interesting. De La Cruz, check into all the candidates, read up about their positions. They've taken some interesting positions, but the pastors from my church have taken a very interesting position, which I think that maybe a lot of people wouldn't expect from Christians. But they basically said this: regardless of the results of the election, we should accept it and we should support the person who wins. And I think that that is the most reasonable and the best way for our country to move forward from the giant division that exists. I know that's going to be really hard for either side of the spectrum to be able to support the alternative side's candidate. But at some point, either we're going to head down the road of just absolute self-destruction, or we could potentially start to care about each other again and maybe move forward. And so that's how I'm going to do it. Regardless of who wins, I'm going to try my best to focus on what I do best, which I think is local, one-on-one conversations and support the other people that live around me and try to treat them better. So.
Yeah, well, I mean, and I don't necessarily think you need to, you can be in the opposition, but just make your opposition political. Make it about the actual topic and not culture war nonsense that is used to inflame us all.
Yeah.
It is now time for the best part of the show.
It's the best part. It is the best part. This is, by the way, the polls are in, and it's 97% to 3% that this is the best part of the show. Those numbers, 538 and 270 to win, and CBS News, they all agree that the best part of the show is when I ask Tom about his favorite stuff, right? And we kind of go different places. I thought about this one this week, and I hadn't thought about it before, and I'm surprised. But Tom Marino, what is your favorite video game?
Oh, I mean, that's tough. So there's a lot of ways you could answer this question.
Let's start with current, and then maybe go all time.
Well, so just in general, I mean, the even though they're not they don't improve at the rate that they should anymore. The NHL franchise from EA is a favorite just because I'm a hockey guy.
All right.
But if you're looking for like a single game, let's go like outside of the sports, because sports is a kind of a different zone category. I'll go with Resident Evil 3 Nemesis, because when you beat that game and you had the points at the end and you could buy the unlimited rocket launcher, it was so gratifying to play through it again. And every time that dude would come up, you just stick a rocket right in his eye, and he would just go, "Ugh!" After the first playthrough, you had to run from him around this stupid thing for 87 hours and shoot and run and shoot and run. The playing through it again with the rocket launcher was the most gratifying thing in video game history.
Oh, Metal Gear Solid 3. Really? Wow. Shawnee D. Hey, everybody else checking into the chat with your favorite games. I got to look at all the different places. I see Facebook. I see Twitter. So let's see. Maybe my favorite. I think my favorite video game like of all time, I guess. Versus I have some favorites now, but my favorite of all time is the original Mega Man.
Oh my God.
I love that game.
Going back to like 2-bit, 3-color stuff.
Bro, I used to play that game over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. And two, yeah. It was the whatchamacallit, the dude with the boomerangs, the boomerang head dude. Like you if you play that game enough, the older Nintendo games, they would kind of get like they would start to fall apart. But the thing that would ruin that game, and I actually did it to 3. They were so hard, Sean. They were the worst. They're so hard. They were so hard. Not as hard as Battletoads though. Battletoads is the hardest game I've ever played in my life. That game is so hard. The guy with the boomerang, when the game started to wear out, he would just get stuck in the air. He would just get stuck in the air. He would like jump and he'd throw a thing and then he would just freeze and you'd be like, no, the game is over. But I loved Mega Man back in the day. I was a big fan of that game.
Yeah, I just recently actually so I got the Giving My Money
Paradise. Sorry.
Oh, I'm not familiar with that one. I give my money to because I'm a bad person. I give my monthly subscription to the Xbox Online thing because I don't have a system, and played through the campaign for the new Call of Duty Black Ops. A little short, but excellent. I don't play that. I don't play online. I can't deal. I don't. I'm toxic enough by myself. I don't need any more of that. But those campaigns are usually pretty good, and this one was.
Oh, that's good. So, by the way, I do sometimes, I don't know why I do this, but sometimes on TikTok, I watch live streaming of gamers, and the culture on game live streams, they do not
weird.
No, but they don't even know what's going on in the world. Like the election is going to happen on Tuesday, and it will not affect at all the folks that play video games online in the middle of the night. They will continue to have 15-year-old boys log on and just talk absolute smack to you at a level that you can't even imagine. That's just unbelievable. My favorite current game right now is actually a phone game, a mobile game. I love Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes. I know that there's a huge group of people who started to hate that game about 3 years ago because during COVID, they super monetized it and they made it like almost impossible to get past, unless you got a guild of people that kind of work together. And so you had to like find the like 50 people in the world because there's millions and millions of people that play this game. And so I have a guild that I have now had almost 6 years now. And so all 50 players, we've been on the same page for 6 years, if you can imagine that. And so we've been able to advance, really far in the game to the point where I've been offered money for my guild, which is really, really strange now twice, which of course, if I ever did that and EA found out, they'd ban me and the guild and every player in it immediately. But I love that game. I love the RPG version of it. And I do like some of the newer elements that they've started to add in it, but man, they do try to steal your money to level up. It's so crazy.
Yeah, and I haven't played through. Shawnee says Silent Hill 2 remake is what he's into right now. I was interested. It was interesting that they did a remake. I haven't messed with it yet, but it's I wasn't a big fan of the original series. I think I played through one of them, but that they remade it is interesting and it's probably worth a look.
So do you know about, this is a rabbit hole real quick, but I just want to put this in your head right now. Sean probably knows about this. Have you heard about the urban legend that the Silent Hill games are based in the Kindergarten Cop universe? The movie Kindergarten Cop with Arnold Schwarzenegger, that the Silent Hill games are actually in that world.
I think that is the official end of the podcast.
I'm telling you, dude. Go on Reddit someday and read about the absolute amazing development of that urban legend. It is unbelievable. You will laugh, you will cry, and you will enjoy yourself very much for hours just watching people argue back and forth about the influences of Kindergarten Cop on the Silent. Sean knows. Look at yes.
I can't with either one of you at this point.
Oh, I'm a champion.
Why would anything be created in the Kindergarten Cop universe? It's the most obscure, dumbest thing I've ever heard.
Yeah, Sean, you're the best. Sean is the champion. The This Week in Worcester champion. Yes, that's so good. It's so good. Oh, I win. Yeah. I,
Uh,
I love it. I
yeah, so
love it.
I play the hockey game a bunch. I have I play the baseball game a little bit too. I haven't watched the baseball game in years. But I don't want to hit. I just got a guy who throws gas, and I do the play a dude mode, and throw the ball by somebody. But I inevitably will hang a cutter every game, and it gets hit 6 miles.
That's cool. Everyone- So you mean against the computer people or against the
No,
online
I
players?
know. I just play like I just gotta
Yeah.
well, I forget what it's called. Make it to the show or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so
MLB the
I'm just,
show? Yeah.
yeah. Well, yeah, but the mode is called something, but
Yeah.
Road to the Show. That's what it's called.
That's cool.
And so I just made a picture, and I'll just jump in it and throw gas by some people. But again, it's my cutter. I just can't. I don't know how to throw the cutter apparently because every one I throw just gets hit 6 miles.
Just for a quick reference to another Star Wars game, the old Knights of the Republic, the first game, the original Knights of the Republic. Oh my goodness, what a great video game! Knights of the Old Republic were just oh, what a great game that was. And they never really recaptured the same thing. But anyways, love that stuff. Disney ruined Star Wars, but what are you gonna do?
What about I started playing with it, and it's a long epic I guess role player. I don't know. No Man's Sky. It's a few years old now.
Oh, I've seen it, but I have not played it. No, that's
Yeah, I
interesting.
just started playing with it. It's interesting.
Yeah.
Collect stuff, fly around the spaceship and whatnot. People try to kill you.
I'm down. I was a big Metroid fan back in the day. Lady superheroes, always cool. Metroid was cool, especially the first, um, like the first version that was on the Wii, the very first one, which I forget which one it was. That one was pretty good too. But the old, again, the 2-bit, the side scrolling, the Metroid games were really cool. Really, really cool games. I like them a lot. I like the story behind it too. So those were cool
That
games.
was a good one. I'll go. I still got some gamer left in me. I mean, I got
I
no
love
time for it. You really, but you
yeah.
know.
Yeah, Prime, Sean. Prime is the one I like. Yeah, that's right. Metroid Prime. Yeah. I love all the classic gaming too. All the classic Nintendo things, and the original like Star Fox. Star Fox was a great game. Another great game. That was on the 64. Was that might have been the best Nintendo games there were for a long, long time. And the console wars are depends on what you like. I like all the fighting games. I used to play a lot of Street Fighter. It's funny that no one remembers Street Fighter 1. Most people remember Street Fighter 2 and then skip Street Fighter 3 and Street Fighter 4. It's funny how that series works. It's like 2 and 4 are good, 1 and 3 no one even remembers. And then same thing with some of the Mortal Kombat games. But I was always a Tekken guy. I love Tekken, especially in the actual the arcade Tekken was just what a game! What a game!
All
I
right,
love
that's
that.
like 20 minutes on video games. We gotta stop. This will go on until tomorrow afternoon. WWF No Mercy. I'm saying. See, you did it. You did it to me again. You got me on another tangent now. You remember, the Fight Night series, right? So there's it started out on PC. I think it just released for console now though. It's called Undisputed, and it was supposed to be like the previews for it were dope. I bought it off of Steam and like pre-release, and under development. I was like, oh my god, it's gonna be a boxing game because I like the sport and all. Let me tell you, this game is such an unmitigated piece of garbage that like I want to sue for my $20. I bought it, early, so it was only $20.
Yeah.
I want my money back. And it was like 2 years ago. I just recently installed it again, and I saw they announced that it was going to full release, going to be out on console soon.
Yeah.
I was like, all right, let's see what progress they made. Unmitigated piece of garbage.
By the way, just real quick, completely separate topic, but because Sean brought up a wrestling video game, the current WWE, the Triple H led and no more Vince McMahon WWE may be one of my favorite all time wrestling eras by far. one of my favorite of all time. So, been enjoying very much some of the stories.
I'm not much into the wrestling, but I will say The Undertaker has a podcast and it's
Oh yeah.
absolutely stellar.
Yes, Taker's podcast is great. I like his Stone Cold Steve Austin. Right, I don't care what you say. That dude is hilarious. Oh, Sean's like, eek, John. He might be a classic wrestling guy. I'm not a Vince McMahon guy. Never really was. Although Vince McMahon may be.
Shawty's pissed. He's like, we can't discuss this.
Oh, we will. We'll be at a convention somewhere, and we will have to talk this up. I will say this: I give credit outside of the personal stuff that McMahon, whatever. McMahon is the best heel of all time. Like in my opinion, there's nobody worse than that dude. So he did have a great heel, and he also had one of the funniest characters of all time, which was Do-Rag Vince, which was one of the funniest things I've ever seen ever in my life. But I do kind of like. I'm not a Cody Rhodes guy. I don't like Cody Rhodes. He's kind of boring. But I do like some of the Bloodline stuff, and in particular, I'm a Yeet guy all the way, Sean. I'm a Jey Uso guy. I like that guy a lot. Better than pretty much all of his family members. Kayfabe, yeah, absolutely. So, I'm a wrestling nerd. I love some of the Japanese stuff and some of the cool independent wrestling. But White Eagle, go to the White Eagle. There's wrestling in Worcester, and go check that out sometime. Underground wrestling is pretty dope, man. It's pretty cool what people are doing there in that arena. So, but last thing is, I believe in Joe Hendry, Sean, just so you know. So we can talk about that later. If anybody knows that reference.
All right.
Yeah, wrestling references on This Week in Worcester.
I was into it when I was a kid. Like, I was before WCW had its big incline, like when it became the kind of the premier promotion for a while. Even before that, I was young. I was, Sting and Ric Flair days.
The Phenom. Sting is the man, bro. Sting is the man.
And I saw, like, he's still been around. I guess he's done now, but he's been around like the last few years even.
He was just at Polar Park. He was doing something.
He's gotta be 75.
Yeah, but he's the icon. What do you mean? Sting's the man, bro. But by the way, the biggest mistake, in my opinion, that McMahon had was that he didn't have a Sting Taker thing that could have, been cool. Like something with those two could have been really, really cool. But they didn't get it done. 65. He's 60. He still looks jacked, Sean. He still looks jacked.
Yeah, steroids will do that to you. I did see, though, and I don't even know when it was, probably a few years ago now. But there was some at WrestleMania or a promo for WrestleMania or something, and it was Hogan, The Rock, and the guy you just mentioned.
Sting?
No, Steve Austin.
Steve, yeah.
Yeah, and it was all they were just talking, but it was kind of like a memory lane type of, they were in the ring doing a monologue type of thing, the three of them together. I guess that's not a monologue, but you get it. And that was very cool. But it's too corny for me these days.
Yeah. No, Sean's going total inside baseball, inside wrestling, but he's right. So Ric Flair, who was like pretty much to be honest with you, he's more responsible for wrestling becoming popular, in my opinion.
He's the GOAT.
Hulk Hogan ever was. It's Ric Flair and Andre the Giant, and then kind of everybody else as far as popularity concerned. But when they were old, it just didn't work. It just didn't work, and so McMahon didn't want to do Taker, Sting, and so. But I feel like those two would have done, because I think they were better at it then. And Hogan was no sell, man. That guy was a bum. He never sold anything. He always had to be the winner of everything. I never liked that part of Hulk Hogan. Even when I was a kid, I was like, what's wrong with this guy? So I was an Ultimate Warrior guy back then when I was a little kid.
This has gone on way too long. I'm officially putting an end to this. This is the end of wrestling time at This Week in Worcester. We will try to screw it up less next week on Sunday at 8:30 ish. That's when we do this. Hope you'll join.